Hey everyone. So I run an AI lead generation agency, and in this video, I'll be giving you a complete 0 to 1 guide in cold outbound. 0 means you're starting from scratch. You're starting your outreach for either yourself or your client. And 1 means you're scaling to the moon. Essentially, we'll see exactly what to look for, what signals to analyze, and what metrics to track, what signals to look for in order to scale your offer, scale your winning campaigns, build more campaigns, and essentially instead of getting, I don't know, 5 leads a week, you'll get 10 leads a week, 20 leads a week, and so on. Okay. If that sounds good, let's get started, and let's look at the core definition. Essentially here is like 0 to 1 in cold outbound is 0, you're starting outreach, 0 from 0. 1 means you actually have everything, that everything dialed in, so the offer, the infrastructure, the scaling system, so the reply handling system, all of that is dialed in so that you're ready to go and you're ready to actually scale to the moon essentially. So the way I see it, there's like 3 or 4 different components that we'll need to tackle here. First thing is that components meaning signals or metrics, right? We'll need to tackle here. The first thing is like offer. The second thing is that we'll need to look at reply rates. Then we'll need to look at positive reply rates. Then we'll need to look at calls booked. And if possible, this is optional, we'll need to look at maybe client score closed. We definitely have to look at reply rates, positive reply rates, and calls booked. If you're operating on a large enough time frame, for example, 4 to 6 weeks, 4 to 8 weeks, so about 30 to 60 days, then you can also look at client close. But if you're operating on, for example, a 2 to 3 week campaign testing, then we need to only look at like reply rates, positive reply rates, and calls booked, because in B2B, the sales cycles can be like, I don't know, 5 days to anywhere from 6 months, right? Depending on the kind of industry you're in, the kind of client that you're working for, or your own sales process, maybe you do like a 2 call sales process or a 3 call sales process, and obviously not all calls will occur in the same week, so you're going to have like a longer sales process and your signals will be delayed. So if you're operating on smaller data and you have to go from 0 to 1 faster, once again, 1 means you're ready to scale up. It doesn't mean that you're stopping something, or you've attained like a plateau or something. No, 1 means you know everything that's working and you know exactly what to do next. 0 means you don't know what's working and you have to start from 0, right? So signals and metrics to track and to understand is offer, reply rate, positive reply rate, calls booked, and then we have to track, um, let's say, the test variations. So we have to realize which test variations to actually scale up and which variations, email variations, to actually kill. And then we'll be handling the infrastructure side of things. So infrastructure also needs to be, perfectly handled in order for us to actually, uh, scale up, scale up a winning offer or winning email. The fifth thing is the reply rates. So if you're used to handling 5 replies, 5 leads a week, or 5 calls a week, and we suddenly 3x the cold email, or we suddenly scale up the winning offer or the winning email, you'll have a sudden influx of new leads, because it's almost always a 1 to 1 ratio of, um, you scaling up something that's working. So 1 to 1 meaning you scaling up to 3x the volume or 3x the amount of leads that you get per week, and the output will essentially be, you having to do that work to convert them properly, to nurture them properly, to get them in your pipeline properly, to supply more lead magnet, to supply more evidence to them that this is important to them, or even taking more discovery calls on a weekly basis, and so on. So you literally will get, if you are scaling your volume to 3x, you will get to do about like 3x more extra work, or maybe even 5x, sometimes all of these components can make you actually realize what are the bottlenecks in your entire pipeline, from writing the copy to sending the email to booking a call. When you actually operate at a large volume, you'll start understanding exactly what are the bottlenecks, and you might have to take a few weeks to fix them. And then this 5x effort will boil down to about 3x of effort, or even less, 2x effort. So you'll have 3x the volume, 3x the scale of your emails, 3x the leads, 3x the calls, and you'll only have to work like twice as hard once you get everything dialed in, once you get everything working perfectly. But that also takes a bit of time. It cannot happen immediately. For example, you might have to hire more SDRs, so you might have to hire people, you might have to take some external help. Obviously, you cannot hire immediately, so you might have to take some external help, or I don't know, hire contractors. Or if you're not hiring, you might need to just do it yourself. So if you're doing it yourself, you're essentially, instead of spending 5 hours a day in sales calls, you'll be spending, I don't know, 10 hours a day, right? So this is like these effects. And you might have to build like more infra, so you'll have to maintain more infra, you'll have to make sure that you have automations in place that check the warm up reputations, and do spam tests every now and then, and so on and so forth, like small automations that actually monitor the health of your infrastructure. And if the health of your infrastructure goes below, let's say, 95%, you actually replace it with another reserve infrastructure that you already had from before, right? And so you'll have to make sure that you have that reserve in place, and then you'll have to make sure that you have automations, or somebody, or you yourself have to replace that in case your primary infrastructure has a lower reputation. So these are the things that you'll have to take care of once you're scaling. So today we'll be discussing all of these signals, all of these metrics that will help us analyze whether it's the time to scale or not, whether it's the time to go from 0 to 1 or not, right? So if that sounds good, let's look at the first thing, which is the offer. So I think the offer and the email variations can be quite, may look similar to you right now, but I'm promising you that they're completely different. Because let's begin with the offer. So the offer is essentially the way you communicate the value proposition, the risk reversal, and the deliverable in a one single sentence or two sentences in your cold email. If it's a small cold email, so let's say less than 60 words, you can have a one line offer that contains all of the above. So risk reversal, the actual deliverable, the value proposition or unique mechanism, all of that in the same thing. I actually covered building a good offer and writing a good copy in my previous video, so you can take a look at that as well if you want. But one line offer can be okay in case of like smaller emails. If your email is like 100 words or so, you'll need to write like at least 2 line offer, and this may contain all three of these, or like two of these in like a little more casual manner, right? So you'll have the deliverable, you'll have the unique mechanism, and you'll have the risk reversal. So guarantee, essentially. Guarantee or risk reversal, both can work depending on your industry, depending on how good your case study is, or stuff like that, And once again, I've covered all of this on how to construct offers, how to construct risk reversal guarantees, how to write your case studies properly. For example, if you want to reference results from a previous client, you can do that. You can reference my last video, and I have covered all of that in detail. But essentially, your offer needs to be, for example, let's say you've tested like 3 offers in the past 3 weeks or so, right? Um, you had 3 offers, so 3 campaigns. And when I say, you know, there's a misconception that you can just make one campaign and you'll have 3 offers running as 3 different email variations in that campaign, And this will give you good data later on to actually understand what is working with the market and what's not. This is not what I do. This is, I think, the unoptimized wrong way to do that. Do any kind of scaling for an outbound campaign. Maybe some veterans in the space have enough experience to know which industries this may work. But overall, whatever I've done so far for myself and my clients, whenever I construct multiple offers, that means I'll be constructing multiple campaigns, right? And if you are not constructing multiple campaigns, you are essentially mixing the data, and you are essentially diluting the amount of data that you can have by testing these different offers properly. If you have, so let's take a scenario in which you have three campaigns and you have three different offers tested over the period of 3 weeks, right? If you are, three campaigns means all of them will have their unique number of leads, all of them will have their unique number of total replies, and this is without counting out of office. And the third thing is, like, these all of these will have a unique number of positive replies, right? And a unique number of calls booked, right? So you need to measure all four of these and measure ratios between number of total replies without out of office and number of positive replies between them. So for example, if your total reply is, I don't know, 3%, and your positive reply percent is like 3%, and you had 30 positive replies, so 30 leads essentially. So let's say leads here. 3% total reply rate is 3%, total leads is 30, positive reply rate is, let's say 50%. Then it means like 15 leads were positive. This is an extremely good ratio. So overall, your positive reply rate is essentially 1.5%, which is like way above the industry average. And I have gotten this for myself and my clients as well previously. So you can trust what I'm saying here right now, right? This is, I can show you some examples later on as well. I do not have some of, I can bring on some screenshots from my SmartLead campaigns, and I can show you exactly how it works and what I've done. So this is how you calculate these ratios, right? And once you have these ratios computed from all three campaigns, so compute ratios of positive replies and calls booked from all three campaigns, meaning all three campaigns, meaning three offers will give you three different reply rates, three different positive reply rates, and three different calls booked ratios. Once you get that, you will understand, for example, this is C1, which is campaign 1. This is C2, which is campaign 3. Campaign 2, this is C2, this is campaign 1. So, for example, in this case, you have, let's say, 50 leads. In this one, you have 30 leads. In this one, you also have, let's say, you also have 20 leads, right? So overall, if you just look at the number of leads, so this is number of leads, right? If you just look at the number of leads, you'll see that your campaign 1 is outperforming all of them, right, by a margin. But then you have to look at another level, right, the second level, which is the positive reply rate. So positive reply, so you'll have to count the positive reply. So if it's like 10 in this case, so this is how much? This is 20%, right? 20%, and in this case, let's say it's 12. So this is way bigger, right? For how much is 12 by 30? This is 40%. So this is way bigger, right? And let's say in this case, it's also 10. This is 50%. So if you look at the positive replies, then you'll see that the positive reply percent in C1 is like 20%. In C3, it's 50%. So now the data shows that C3 is the one to scale, and C2 is the one to actually, have a little bit more confidence, have a little bit more testing volume applied in the future, so that you have more data to understand which one of them is actually ready to scale. For now, to go into step two, which is essentially understanding which two offers to pick from here. And you do not have to pick just one offer from if you test three. You can have like two winners, and one is obviously bigger than the other one, but you can take both of them, and you can, the way forward will be, you can put, for example, if you scrape another 10,000 leads to put a new campaign that has like either C2 and C3. C3 can have, I don't know, like 70% of the volume, and C2 can have about 30% of the volume, so that you understand that you're putting the maximum volume on your best winner, and you're putting a little bit less volume, but still significant volume on your second positive, like second biggest winner. And C1 you can just immediately discard, because only 10 out of 50, so only 20% of the replies are positive, which means that it's not resonating as nicely as by the market as it should be. And these are the things that we need to make sure that we track. And this is way easier to track when you have three campaigns for three offers. So if you're testing five offers, you can have five campaigns running at once, right? um, then you'll have way better data. And speaking of offers, let's look at the third one first. We have already discussed offers and what to look for, like what metrics to look for. The second thing is essentially testing email variations. So now that you know that we have constructed three offers, meaning three campaigns, right? If you have three campaigns, all of these three campaigns, you want to have at least 2 to 3 different email variations. Okay, 2 to 3 different email variations will give you enough data on what kind of copy for each offer is working. So this gives you essentially, so if you start running on day one with 3 into 3, which is 9 email variations, right? Or let's say you're only testing 2 variations per offer, so 2 variations per offer, so you're testing about 6 email variations. Okay. um, Once you do this, you will also get some idea of if variation 1 in C3 is working better than variation 2 in C3, or variation 2 in C2 is working better than variation 1 in C2. So you can do a similar ratio for email variations as well. For the same offer, you'll have different email variations. Remember, we are not changing the offer in a particular campaign. We are only changing the offer between campaigns, right? So you're writing the same offer in different manners, in different, for example, if your offer is like, for example, you can change different components of the offer in different variations. Like instead of saying it in one line, you can say the offer in 2 lines in different email variations. Or you know instead of keeping it to the point in one email variation, you can completely just cut the bullshit, cut all the fluff, and have your first or second email variation just be a small punchy 40-50 word email. The second one, the second variation, which is conveying the exact same offer, can be, I don't know, like a 60, 70, 80 word email. So we are essentially wanting to test different ways of saying the same offer for a particular campaign. And so in total, if we have 2 variations per offer, we'll be testing 6 email variations from the start. And in 3 weeks, we'll have at least, we already have like one winner, right? C3 is already the winner. Obviously, we are still running C2, but that doesn't mean that C3 is not the winner. C3 is the winner. And we'll have at least like 1 to 2 email variations if you're testing like 3 variations. Maybe you'll have 2 variations that are working well. Or if you're testing only 2 variations, you'll definitely have like 1 variation that's working better. So you know what's working now. Let's move on to the next component of what signal to track. So the next thing is positive reply rates, calls booked, and clients closed. So let's say for like keeping our 3-week testing campaigns in mind, we can look at reply rates, positive reply rates, calls booked, clients closed. And I know I'm jumping around a little bit. I've already talked about reply rates, positive reply rates, percentages, what to track, how to track, what ratios to track, all of that here. But you can still, you know, take all of this. I can literally, copy all of this and give you guys a clear picture on what to track, right? So we have this here, C1, whoops, C1, C2, and C3. Once you track this, I want you to go ahead and put it in a spreadsheet, or just put it in Claude. So connect Claude to SmartLead via the API, and this is pretty easy. What you do is, go SmartLead API. This is the SmartLead API documentation. You just copy the URL and you just paste it in Claude Code, essentially. Once you do that, you will be able to uh, have like a connection between Claude Code and SmartLead. And essentially, what it will prompt you to do is essentially, let's say I go here, I'll show you. Um, if I go to settings, if I go to API key management, if you'll see here, I have this Claude Business Management API key right here. It was created on 30th April, and this is still active. This is like your API key for Claude to be able to work with the SmartLead API and get all of these data on all of your testing campaigns together. So without you having to copy paste or take screenshots or write down manually, you can use that as well. Like, just use AI to do that for you. So obviously you have to keep in mind that if the data between certain campaigns are small, then you'll probably need to deploy more volume into each of the good winners in order to understand what's working. So for example, you can also make this slightly smaller. So instead of 70/30, you can do 55/45% volume. So let's say you tested in the first 3 weeks, you tested 5,000 leads. Let's say you tested 2,000 leads per campaign. So you've already burned 6K leads. That's why cold outbound needs about 20,000 companies or more, right? If you have a very small TAM, you won't be able to do these kinds of tests, right? So you need a bigger TAM, obviously. So you've burned 6K leads. You have some data of what's working. So you spent 2,000 leads per campaign. So you have like a good data. So now, let's say you have this kind of positive reply, so 40%, 50%. Obviously, it's not as big of a difference as you would, typically want. So what you can do is, like, essentially in the next 10K leads, just make sure that 5.5K leads go to C3 campaign, and the rest 4.5K leads go to C2 campaign, right? And yeah, this is how you actually track everything. And obviously, if you're running this experiment over like a couple of months instead of 3 weeks, or like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you can have like a client close metric as well. And probably client close metric is like the best metric to track, because this is literally giving you an idea that, okay, I closed 3 clients from campaign number C2. So regardless of what data is saying here, I will keep trying to have more volume on C2 than I have on C3. So sometimes your data can be contradicted because you've closed more clients. You've closed more clients from 12 leads than 40% positive reply rate, than you've closed from 50% positive reply rate. So you have this idea that, okay, although the metrics show differently, I should maintain probably the same volume or more volume on the other campaign, right? So this is pretty simple. I hope this is clear. And the final thing that we should track, so if we go back to our 0 to 1 outbound again, I've already discussed offer, reply rate, test email, and infrastructure. So I think reply rates come under the infrastructure as well. So I can make this a single point. So essentially, infrastructure is essentially, the way you handle more volume, right? So by this time, you already have a winner campaign. So offer and campaign are synonymous here. So if I say you have a winner campaign, it means that you have a winner offer, right? And if you have a winner offer, you'll also have a winner email variation, right? And you have an email variation that's working, you have an offer that's working. Now it's time to scale, right? So time to scale is essentially if you were sending, let's say, 500 emails per day, right, for each campaign, then you will now be sending, let's say, 1500 emails per day for the new campaign. And how will you divide this? So you'll be either sending 1500 emails per day for both campaigns that you want to scale, or you'll be sending, I don't know, 750 in each campaign, anything that works for you, right? And depending on what your infrastructure looked like when you were sending 500 emails per day, so let's say you had, if you're sending 20 emails per inbox, and this is both Google and Outlook, I don't differentiate between this, um, per inbox, then you'll need how many? You'll need 25 inboxes, right? Um, Now, when you want to scale to 1500 emails, you'll need, three times. So you need 60, uh, sorry, you need 20 emails per inbox still, because you don't want to, scale the volume per inbox. You only want to scale number of inboxes for your infrastructure. So you need the three times the volume, right? So you need 75 inboxes instead. So what you need to do is when you are on day zero, what you do is you have one primary infrastructure that you'll be sending those 500 emails per day, right? And you'll have a secondary or reserve infrastructure already warming up in the background. You want this because once you have a offer that's working and an email variation that's working or a campaign that you want to scale, you do not want to wait another 2 weeks or 3 weeks for new set of infrastructure to warm up in order for you to scale, because you'll be literally wasting money, wasting time in that 2 to 3 week email time frame. So you want this reserve infrastructure to be ready in the background as well. So the moment you get a good offer that's working, you will be able to scale, right? Just put more volume immediately. So that's all I wanted to say about the infrastructure. The main thing that I want to say is like reply rates, reply handling, right? And this is one of the core things about cold email. The thing about leads is that you want to capture intent immediately. If somebody is looking at their email inbox, if somebody is looking at their email inbox and replying that, okay, maybe this could work, or they're replying, okay, yeah, let's discuss. And if you reply after 30 minutes or, God forbid, 2 hours, then it's a extremely high, like lower probability. It's like 60% lower probability of you closing the deal. Essentially, you getting them on a call in the first place, of getting them on a call. So what you want to do is like you have to reply within 5 minutes. If possible, you can reply within 1 minute as well if you can deploy some clever AI techniques. Depending on the offer and depending on the industry, you can test this obviously, but yeah, you want to keep it between 5 to 10 minutes, because not even 10 minutes. I'll say 5 minutes, because the thing is that when people are actually checking their inbox, you want to catch them immediately then. You do not want them to just put their phone down, or just scroll away from Gmail and then come back in like next day and then check your email again and then see your reply again, then reply again. So if you reply later, not only do you like just not capture intent immediately right then and there, you are actually scaling the you're actually, expanding the amount of time it'll take to get them on the call. If they're interested and they want to discuss or they want more info, you provide more info immediately. They'll want to jump on a call in like 2 3 back and forth, right? If you're replying in half an hour or if you're replying in like 3 hours, they will be replying later to you in the evening. For example, if you replied at 11 a.m., they will be checking their email again in like 2 hours, 3 hours. It will be late afternoon by then. You won't be able to talk that day. So you'll have to wait for the reply that will come this morning, this evening. Then you'll reply again about scheduling a meeting. Then they'll reply back next morning, probably. And then you'll reply with times, and then they'll reply back. It's like it's gonna take like 2 to 3 extra days just because you delayed replying within 5 minutes. Like instead of replying within 5 minutes, you replied in 2 hours. So you get my point, right? This is exactly what's necessary. So about scaling. So scaling is like a both a it can be a blessing, right? Like you already have found what's working with the market, what messaging, what offer is working. For scaling, if your team, if you or yourself, if you or your team is able to handle 50 leads a week, so this means talking to them on the phone, replying to their email, or sending LinkedIn requests, yada yada yada, right? 50 leads a week. You need to be able to scale to 50 leads, 150 leads a week after you get a winning offer because you're tripling the volume, right? So I did say, yes, I did say you're tripling the volume to 1500. So you'll roughly get the triple the leads. If you have not done something horrible by, just looking at the wrong metrics and calculating math, you've done the math correctly, you know what's working, you just scale it up, you will get 3x the result. And 3x the result meaning 3x the volume. And 3x leads is 150 leads in this case. 150 leads meaning your team or you have to be able to handle that 5 minute SLA. And by SLA, I mean service level, um, or instead of SLA, let's call it SLO, objective. SLA doesn't make sense. There's no agreement, right? You need to be able to reply in less than 5 minutes for all of those 150 leads. If you can't do that, you'll be wasting all of these leads. You'll be literally wasting the money that you spend on acquiring more leads, acquiring more infrastructure, your team, everything. You'll be replying blindly. You'll be, replying to them later than what's needed, stuff like that. So you need to be able to handle that. So you'll have to take care of that before you have to scale. So once again, um, remember I said that you need a secondary infrastructure warming up in the background. You need to have a plan that when you start scaling, you need to be able to, I don't know, like hire another two people, two appointment setters to actually engage them, two SDRs, two appointment setters, or just you start working like double time, right? So just spend like instead of 5 hours a day, you spend 15 hours a day, which is, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you get the idea, right? So if you don't do this 5 minute SLO, you're gonna be literally wasting leads and wasting money and wasting time, and you know all of these things. So as I've said, once you have all of these four things dialed in, you are ready. You are ready to scale. You are at one. May, meaning you started from zero when you did not know what offer worked, what kind of email worked, whether a short punchy email works or whether a long personalized email works. You have all of that data now. Now it's time to scale, and you have everything ready that I've talked about, these four signals, these four metrics, these four action items. You've already done everything. Then it means that you are at stage one, which is you're ready to scale. So I hope all of this makes sense. I hope we spent the last 30 or 60 minutes, 34 minutes by my clock, understanding exactly how to scale cold outbound. I hope these points work. If you if there's anything that you can't understand, just leave me a comment and I'll be happy to clarify. If you want to work with me, just book a call. Um, and yeah, let's provide me more ideas in the comments as well. I love reading comments and getting more ideas for these videos. I'm posting one video every day, so I have so many ideas popping up, like, and I'd love to get more ideas from you as well if you have a topic in mind. Thank you so much. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next video, which is tomorrow. Bye.